Do you think in the future prices will go up or down? Do you think there will be more resources or fewer? Do you think the future will be better for people or for the elites? It takes 20 years to prepare for the next phase of a cycle, and the decline has begun in everything: food scarcity, energy scarcity, metal scarcity, oil, and even water scarcity. So, prepare yourself and your loved ones because winter is coming. This is Google Podcasters Judging My Membership video on, well, you already know the title. In this video, the podcasters will dissect and judge my video from the form to the core of the message. Just remember this: if you're struggling to keep up with rising costs and dwindling resources, you're not alone. The elites are tightening the noose, and it's time to fight back by making every minute, action, and dollar count. This isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving in a world designed to keep us down. The goal of this podcast? To review, judge, and give you a glimpse of what I prepare for my special members. My intentions are to help you take control of your life, optimize your daily habits, and prepare for the scarcity that's coming. You'll learn the hard truths about why efficiency isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. Stay until the end. You will like it. Ready to turn chaos into control? Let's get started.
Hey there. You ready to dive into something pretty intense?
Always up for a challenge. What do we have this time?
Well, we're tackling Spartan Shelter today, based on Kay Waterloo's writings on economic collapse that you sent over.
Oh, right. Those ones definitely got the gears turning, didn't they?
Yeah, let's face it, between housing costs going completely haywire and inflation making everything feel shaky, it's no wonder people are thinking about what if.
Right, like, is the system rigged? Are we headed for a collapse?
Exactly. And that's where this whole prepping world with ideas like Spartan Shelter starts to make sense to some.
Makes sense, yeah. Trying to take back some control in the face of all this uncertainty.
Now, before we get into the thick of it, remember, we're not here to tell you what to think or, tell you to go build a bunker or anything.
Right, we're just here to unpack these ideas and see what's what.
We're here to break down even the most intense ideas and see what nuggets of wisdom we can pull out.
Even if it's just food for thought, right?
Exactly. So whether you're a seasoned prepper or just curious about this stuff, let's unpack Kay Waterloo's Spartan Shelter and see what resonates.
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in.
So Waterloo paints a pretty stark picture, right? They're saying economic collapse is practically inevitable. The systems we rely on are going to crumble, and the only ones who make it will be those who prepared.
And they use some pretty strong language to get that point across, too.
Oh yeah, they definitely don't hold back. They use phrases like financial bloodbath, fortress, or your grave.
Yeah.
Definitely intense stuff.
And you know that intensity, those almost alarmist phrases, they hit on a nerve? That's very real for a lot of people right now.
I can see that for sure. It's scary stuff.
Think about it. The economy, climate change politics, these are big, complex issues that leave people feeling uncertain about the future.
Definitely a lot of uncertainty out there.
So it's understandable why some folks gravitate towards something like prepping towards feeling like they have a plan and some control.
Right, and that's where Spartan Shelter comes into play.
Yeah.
But get this, it's more than just building a bunker in your backyard. Waterloo's talking about a mindset shift.
Interesting, so it's deeper than just physical preparation.
They're all about efficiency, durability, self-sufficiency, basically creating a space that can weather any storm, literally and figuratively.
So it's about being adaptable, resourceful, ready for anything.
They're really big on downsizing, owning your space outright, and finding things that have multiple uses. They actually rail against luxury masquerading as necessity, urging readers to ruthlessly ditch anything they don't absolutely need.
Wow, so it's like a minimalist approach to prepping.
It's almost like Marie Kondo meets Mad Max.
I like that analogy. And, even if we set aside the whole apocalypse scenario, there are some genuinely valuable takeaways here.
I can see that for sure.
Think about it: decluttering, simplifying, focusing on what truly matters. These are all things that can reduce stress and build resilience in our everyday lives.
For sure, it's about taking control of our surroundings and, in a way, our state of mind.
Exactly. Create that sense of calm amidst the chaos.
It's interesting you mentioned taking control, because Waterloo's take on location is, well, it's pretty unique. Forget those trendy downtown lofts. They say proximity to essential services is key. Think grocery stores, transportation hubs, even mentioning being close to local resources. It's a different way of looking at things, that's for sure.
So they're prioritizing practicality and access over aesthetics and convenience.
And while their reasoning might seem extreme, it does tap into broader societal shifts we're seeing. Urban exodus is real. you know?
Oh, absolutely. The cost of living in cities is pushing people out, and many are prioritizing affordability and access to resources over big city amenities.
And then there's the whole financial warfare concept. Definitely one of the more intense aspects of their philosophy. They believe that elites are manipulating the system to benefit themselves at the expense of everyone else.
Okay, so we're getting into conspiracy theory territory here a little bit.
Well, they do have some pretty strong opinions about how the world works. Let's just say that.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
One example they point to is 401ks.
Yeah.
You know, those retirement savings accounts a lot of people have. They see them as risky because they're tied to the stock market, which they believe is rigged.
So they're skeptical of traditional financial systems.
And they're wary of technology, arguing that our increasing reliance on it makes us vulnerable.
Okay, so they're suspicious of the system and technology. Got it. So how do they suggest we navigate all this? What are they proposing?
Well, they argue that financial warfare is this invisible battleground where those in power use things like inflation, debt, and market manipulation to keep everyday folks down.
So it's like a rigged game that we're all playing without realizing it.
That's the gist of it, yeah. And what do they say we can do about it?
Well, they point to things like the housing bubble, the rising cost of education, and even our dependence on credit cards as examples of how this warfare plays out in our lives.
So they're saying we're trapped in this system that's designed to keep us in debt and dependent.
Exactly. And that feeling of powerlessness is what Kay Waterloo really hones in on. They see traditional financial advice investing in the stock market, relying on 401ks, as playing right into the hands of this elite control.
Okay, so if we shouldn't be relying on traditional systems, what do they suggest we do?
Instead, they suggest a more radical approach, what they call opting out of the system.
Opting out? That sounds intense. What does that actually look like in practice?
And this opting out takes different forms throughout their work. One key aspect is debt reduction. They're really adamant about getting out of debt and staying out. They see debt as a tool used to trap people in the system. They're also big on investing in tangible assets.
Tangible assets meaning things like gold and silver.
That's one example, yeah. They also talk about land, precious metals, even tools and supplies, things with inherent value that can't be as easily manipulated as stocks or bonds.
So they're talking about becoming more self-sufficient, less reliant on systems they see as inherently unstable.
Right, and it's not just about having stuff, it's about having the skills and knowledge to use that stuff.
So it's like a combination of prepping and homesteading.
It's interesting because on the one hand, you've got this almost apocalyptic prepper vibe, but then there's this other layer of like practical advice that even folks who aren't building bunkers might find useful.
Right, like learning how to garden or fix things around the house. Those are valuable skills no matter what happens to the economy.
Absolutely. And that's where their emphasis on self-sufficiency comes in. They want people to develop skills and knowledge that make them less reliant on external systems. Things like gardening, basic home repair, even learning how to barter or trade.
It's almost like they're advocating for a return to a simpler way of life, but with a modern twist.
Right. They're not saying throw your phone away and live off the grid, but they are urging people to think critically about their dependence on technology.
Which is a valid point when you think about it. We're so reliant on our devices these days. What happens if the power goes out or the internet goes down?
And to be fair to Kay Waterloo, our reliance on tech does come with vulnerabilities. Think about something like a major cyber attack or even just a widespread power outage. How would we function?
It's a sobering thought for sure. So while their financial warfare concept might seem extreme, their emphasis on developing practical skills and having some level of self-sufficiency isn't entirely off base.
Right. It's about finding that balance between being prepared and not letting fear control your life.
And it's not just about practical skills, right? Waterloo also talks about mental and even spiritual preparedness.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. Tell me more about that.
They have this quote, "Wisdom leadership comes from knowing when to let go and when to hold tight." What do you make of that?
That's a good one. I think it speaks to the importance of resilience, of cultivating inner strength and flexibility. Because whether or not you buy into the whole economic collapse scenario, life throws curveballs, right?
Yeah, life can definitely be unpredictable.
So it's about having the mental fortitude to navigate challenges and adapt to changing circumstances.
Basically being able to roll with the punches and come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. And that goes beyond just stockpiling supplies or learning survival skills. It's about developing a mindset that's adaptable, resourceful, and maybe even a little bit philosophical.
Okay, so there's a deeper layer to this than just prepping for a physical disaster. We're talking about preparing for anything life throws at you.
Right. It's about cultivating that inner strength, that sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, which can be incredibly powerful in times of stress and uncertainty.
It's interesting that you bring up philosophy because even though Kay Waterloo focuses a lot on prepping and material preparedness, there's this other layer to their writing, this focus on community and connection.
Oh, absolutely. Community is huge in their philosophy.
They actually argue that true wealth lies in the strength of our relationships.
That's a really important point because it's easy to get caught up in the fear-based aspects of prepping, to focus so much on individual survival that we forget about the importance of community.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in that every man for himself mentality.
But in reality, our ability to come together to support each other, to share resources and knowledge, that's going to be crucial in any kind of crisis situation.
And that's something we often don't talk about enough, especially in the context of prepping, which can sometimes feel very individualistic.
Absolutely. Because true resilience isn't just about having enough supplies or a secure bunker. It's about having a network of people we can rely on, a sense of shared purpose and community.
So while Waterloo's Spartan shelter concept might initially seem like it's all about hunkering down and isolating yourself, it actually has a surprising emphasis on building strong communities.
Exactly. They argue that resilient communities are built on trust, shared values, and a willingness to cooperate and support one another. It's about recognizing that we're stronger together than we are alone.
So we've talked about financial warfare, self-sufficiency, community building, strong relationships. Phew, it's a lot, right? But Waterloo doesn't just leave us there with this doom and gloom picture.
Right. It's not just about hunkering down and waiting for the world to end.
They actually offer a framework for action, for taking control and building a better future. It's like, okay, things might get rough, but here's what you can do about it.
And that's what sets their work apart from some of the other more fear-based stuff out there. They acknowledge the challenges, the potential threats, but they also offer a path forward, a way to navigate uncertainty and build resilience.
It's like they're saying, hey, I know this is scary, but don't freak out. Let's make a plan.
Exactly. Channel that nervous energy into something productive.
So one of the things they stress is the importance of setting goals. But not just any goals. They're all about SMART goals.
Oh, right. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Exactly. I knew you'd appreciate that.
Always a fan of a good acronym, but seriously, it's such a valuable tool for anyone, regardless of whether or not you're preparing for a major economic downturn. Having clear, well-defined goals helps us focus our energy, track our progress, and stay motivated.
It's about breaking down big, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of prepare for economic collapse, it's learn to bake bread this month.
Exactly. Small steps lead to big changes. And that sense of progress, even if it's incremental, can make a big difference in our outlook and our ability to handle challenges.
And speaking of feeling empowered, Waterloo also talks a lot about knowledge as a form of power. They encourage their readers to educate themselves, to become more financially literate, to understand how systems work or don't work.
It's about empowering ourselves with information, so we're not just passively accepting whatever narrative we're being fed. And that's relevant whether we're talking about finance, politics, technology, any area of life.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. They even suggest learning about things like alternative investment strategies, sustainable living practices, and community organizing. Like, what if the power grid goes down? Knowing how to organize your community could be essential.
Right. It's about diversifying our skill sets, expanding our knowledge base, and becoming more adaptable and resilient in the face of change. The more you know, the more you can adapt.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from prepping for the worst case scenario to simply living a more intentional and resilient life. But there's one final point from Waterloo that I want to touch on before we wrap up.
Okay, what's that?
Spiritual preparedness.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's an interesting one. How does Waterloo tie that into everything else?
Well, and I know that might sound a little out there in the context of prepping and economic collapse, but hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
They're not necessarily talking about religion or anything like that, but rather about finding something that gives you a sense of grounding, meaning, and purpose. Something that helps you stay centered and grounded when the world feels chaotic.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see how that would be important in a crisis situation. When everything around you feels uncertain, having that inner strength, that sense of purpose can really help you cope.
Exactly. They talk about things like meditation, spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, or even just taking some time for quiet reflection. Practices that can help us stay calm and focused when things get tough.
Those are all great suggestions. And you know what? Even if you're not preparing for a major economic collapse, those are still valuable practices for anyone looking to live a more mindful and fulfilling life. It's about taking care of your mental and emotional well-being, which is just as important as taking care of your physical needs.
So true. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Kay Waterloo's Spartan Shelter and their whole philosophy, I'm curious, what are you taking away from all of this?
For me, it's that emphasis on taking ownership of our lives, our finances, our well-being, our communities. It's about recognizing that while we can't control everything that happens, we can control how we respond, how we prepare, and how we choose to show up in the world.
And that's a powerful message, regardless of whether or not you subscribe to their whole economic collapse scenario. So, to our listeners out there, what's one small step you can take today to feel a little more in control, a little more prepared, or even just a little more at peace? It could be something as simple as decluttering a drawer, researching a new skill, or reaching out to a friend or neighbor. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to take action in your own life. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
And even if they don't share all my views and missed understanding 1 or 2 points of the video made specially for our premium community members, I have to say the podcaster did an admirable job. Now, knowing that more independent from the system you are and less money you need to spend, you've got 2 choices. Either stay without full control over your life, or join the Spartan tribe and take the reins of your future. You might think you've learned a bit from this video, but believe me, there's so much more beneath the surface. Our exclusive membership includes videos packed with explosive, actionable solutions that will definitely make a difference for you and your community. While the rest of the world is struggling with chaos, you'll be the one thriving. But if you're not quite ready, take a look at my other videos and playlists. And before you do that, I'm really eager to hear what you liked the most about this video. Do you have any questions? Here's one from me. What do you want more of? Money, time, or both? And would you rather have it later or sooner? Most people looking for these advantages end up liking, subscribing, and crucially, joining us to become executive members. If you decide not to join, you might just find your bank account slowly dwindling. So, what's your next move? Hit that subscribe button, become an executive member, and tap into knowledge that sets you apart from the crowd. The real question is, do you merely want to survive, or do you aim to dominate? Remember, the weak will fall, but the prepared will thrive. Click to join now.